This might be the most shocking NFL story of the year, and it's been right in front of your eyes the whole time. We're talking about a possible huge trade that would have shocked the whole league, a deal so big that it could have changed the course of many teams' futures. And at the center of it all was Shadur Sanders, the son of Coach Prime, and a $100 million trade package from the Baltimore Ravens that John Harbaugh tried very hard to keep secret. But here's the thing. The cat is out of the bag now, and the proof is very bad. In what should have been a normal post-game press conference, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh may have accidentally confirmed one of the biggest moves that never happened behind the scenes. When you put together all the hints, the carefully worded non-answers, and the strategic deflections, you get a picture that is completely crazy. The Ravens wanted Shadur Sanders so badly that they were willing to give up a lot of their future to get him, even though Lamar Jackson is already their quarterback and has won the MVP twice. Let me set the stage for you because the background is very important. The Ravens just beat the Cleveland Browns in a big way. Lamar Jackson was on fire, throwing 4 touchdown passes without any interceptions. He looked every bit like the great quarterback he's always been. The game wasn't even close. Baltimore was in charge the whole time. John Harbaugh then stood at the podium, ready to enjoy the win and praise his star quarterback. But then something amazing happened. A reporter who had apparently heard something that was going around in NFL circles asked a question that shocked everyone. The reporter talked about a report that Shadur Sanders had told teams, including the Ravens, that he didn't want to go to Baltimore because he didn't want to sit on the bench behind Lamar Jackson. It was clear what the message was. The Ravens had been interested in Sanders during the draft, or maybe even in talks about a trade. The reporter wanted to know right away if Baltimore was really interested in getting the young quarterback. This is where things get really interesting. Look at how John Harbaugh reacts. Or better yet, see how he never answers at all. Instead of just saying yes or no, or laughing off what would be a silly question if it weren't true, Harbaugh goes into full damage control mode right away. What he said exactly. You think I'm going to answer questions about the draft process. We don't talk about how decisions are made in the draft room here. Stop right there. Take a moment to think about that. That's not a no. That's not a rejection. That's a well-thought-out way to avoid the issue from a coach who knows what he's doing. Harbaugh could have easily put an end to these rumors right away if they weren't true, if the Ravens had no interest in Shadur Sanders, and if this was all made up. He could have said, "That's not true. We're only focused on Lamar Jackson because we think he's the best quarterback in football." But he didn't say any of that. He used organizational policy as an excuse, which in the NFL means, this story has legs and I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. If you think about it, the policy excuse is actually very smart because it lets Harbaugh deny everything while still not telling a lie. He's not saying anything, but he's also not denying anything on purpose. In the world of NFL politics and media management, what you don't say can say more about you than what you do say. The fact that Harbaugh had to use team policy instead of just saying no tells you everything you need to know. Something happened that was real and important enough that the head coach doesn't want to talk about it, even in general terms. Now, let's talk about what people say happened behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation say that this wasn't just a casual phone call or a conversation to see if they could work something out. It was a full-blown trade proposal with real assets on the table. We're talking about a deal that would have included a lot of first-round draft picks, young defensive players who could help right away, and maybe even established veterans to make the deal more appealing to Cleveland's front office. If you add up the value of all these assets, including the contract implications and future draft picks, you get a total value of well over $100 million. Take a moment to think about what that means. The Baltimore Ravens, one of the best-run and most successful teams in the NFL, were willing to give up that kind of treasure for a quarterback, even though they wouldn't start right away. This wasn't about getting rid of Lamar Jackson. We need to be very clear about that. Lamar is playing like an MVP right now, and the Ravens know they have a chance to win the Super Bowl with him as their quarterback. This was about something much more strategic and forward-thinking. This was about making sure the future while still being able to compete in the present. There is already a plan for this kind of move in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers picked Jordan Love, even though Aaron Rodgers was still playing at a high level. It caused a lot of debate at the time. Rodgers was very angry. The media didn't agree with the decision, but the Packers were looking ahead. They knew that the windows for quarterbacks would close eventually. You should have a plan ready for when they do. If you don't, you'll end up like a lot of franchises, going through a lot of average quarterbacks for years while looking for the next franchise player. The Ravens were trying to stay away from that. Every NFL team has to face an uncomfortable truth when it comes to mobile quarterbacks, even though Lamar Jackson is playing at an amazing level right now, and his style of play is still exciting and dynamic. The shelf life is usually shorter than that of other pocket passers. It's not meant to be a criticism of Lamar. It's just how physics and human biology work. When you get hit like running quarterbacks do, week after week, season after season, it takes a toll on your body. The explosiveness goes away, the reaction time slows down, and the injuries pile up. Smart businesses know this and make plans that take it into account. They don't wait until their star quarterback is getting worse before looking for a new one. They find possible successors years in advance, train them in their system, and make sure that the transitions go smoothly so that the franchise stays competitive. The Ravens seem to have picked Shadur Sanders as that possible successor, the player who could step in when Lamar's time is up. But this is where the story takes its most shocking turn. And this is the point at which Shadur Sanders becomes a major character in the story, instead of just a piece of property being talked about in trade talks. Multiple reports say that Sanders made it very clear to teams during the evaluation process that he did not want to be anyone's backup quarterback. He didn't want to spend a year or two on the bench learning the system. He didn't want to watch someone else play while holding a clipboard. He wanted to start right away, and he was willing to turn down offers from well-known teams like the Baltimore Ravens to make sure that happened. Some people might think that is rude. Some people might think it's a young player being unrealistic about how ready he is for the NFL, but I see it a different way. This quarterback knows how valuable he is, has a lot of faith in his skills, and won't settle for anything less than what he thinks he deserves. And you know what? That's the kind of attitude you want in a franchise quarterback. You can't be shy in that role. You can't question your own decisions. You need to have faith in your abilities, even when things might make you think you should be more patient. Deion Sanders, one of the most confident athletes in history, is the father of Shadur Sanders. He grew up watching his father play professional football at the highest level, with a confidence and swagger that no one else could match. It's clear that this way of thinking has been passed down, and Shedeur has the same level of confidence that made his father a Hall of Famer. He isn't being rude to Lamar when he says he doesn't want to back him up. He is just saying that he thinks he is good enough to start in the NFL right now, and that he doesn't want to waste years of his career sitting on the bench when he could be getting better as a starter somewhere else. And this is what makes the whole thing even more interesting. It's possible that Shedeur is right. Check out his skills. The kid has one of the fastest releases in football. For someone his age, he makes decisions very well. He quickly processes information, moves through his progressions quickly, and has great pocket awareness. His arm strength is good enough for the NFL, and he's shown that he can throw from a lot of different arm angles and platforms. These aren't just empty words that scouts use. These are real traits of a quarterback that can help them do well in the pros. Also, we've seen that the old way of keeping rookie quarterbacks on the bench for long periods of time is becoming less and less common. From the start, Justin Herbert looked like a pro. C.J. Stroud joined the NFL and played in the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Caleb Williams has shown signs of being very good in a few games. The game has changed. Now, college offenses are more complicated. More than ever before, young quarterbacks are ready to play in the NFL. It's not true anymore that every new quarterback needs to sit and learn for a few years. When Shadur Sanders says he's ready to start right away, he isn't crazy. He knows what's going on in the NFL right now and how quickly talented young quarterbacks can make a difference. The Ravens clearly thought he had that kind of skill. They wouldn't have put together a trade package worth more than $100 million to get him if they didn't want him. Let's take a closer look at what this proposed trade package might have looked like, because the details are important. There would have been a lot of first-round picks at the center. It's clear that we're talking about at least 2 first-round picks, and maybe even 3 if the Ravens really wanted to get this deal done. In the NFL today, first-round picks are the most valuable things to trade. They are talented people who are cheap. The chance to choose difference makers who can help for years on rookie contracts. For a team that is rebuilding, like the Browns, getting first-round picks would be very helpful. But the Ravens wouldn't have stopped there. To make this deal really hard to pass up, they would have had to add young players who could help right away. We're talking about promising defensive players who are just starting out, people who have already shown they can play in the NFL but haven't reached their full potential yet. Players like Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Oweh, or other young defenders who are valuable now and have the potential to be valuable in the future could have been in the mix. These players would help Cleveland's defense right away and also fit into their long-term plans. There may have also been veteran players added to balance out the salary concerns and make the roster better right away. The Ravens have a few veteran players who could help a team that is rebuilding. Including 1 or 2 of those players in the deal would show that they are serious about getting it done. We're talking about players who have already made a name for themselves in the NFL and could start right away and be a leader in the locker room. When you add up all of this, the draft picks, the young players, the veterans, and all the contract implications, you get to the $100 million number that has been reported. And here's why that number is so shocking. The Ravens were willing to pay that much for a quarterback who wouldn't even be their starter right away. Think about how strong that belief is. They weren't just interested in Shadur Sanders. They all thought he would be their future quarterback. Let's take a closer look at John Harbaugh's press conference now, because there are other hints in what he said that the Ravens were really thinking about how to plan for the future of their quarterback. At one point, Harbaugh talks a lot about how important it is to develop young players, give rookies chances to help out, and build depth across the roster. He named a few young players and praised their growth, pointing out how well the organization has been able to put them in important roles. What does that have to do with anything? If you want to convince Shadur Sanders to come to Baltimore, even if it means he won't start right away, you need to show that your team has a history of developing young players and giving them chances to shine. You need to show that being a backup in Baltimore isn't the end of the road. It's a way to get ahead. And Harbaugh's words, whether he meant to or not, made that picture clear. When Harbaugh talks about Lamar Jackson's performance, there is another revealing moment in the press conference. He praises Lamar, calling him a next-level player, and pointing out several plays where the quarterback made something out of nothing. But pay attention to how he puts it. He talks about Lamar's brilliance in the context of recent years, which shows that he knows that this level of play won't last forever. It's not obvious, but it's there. The understanding that even the best players will eventually slow down, and that smart businesses need to plan for that. When talking about receiver DeAndre Hopkins, Harbaugh also says something interesting about talent being God-given. He asks, "Why is he so good?" That's a question for the Lord, since he gave him that talent. At first glance, this looks like a throwaway line about a great player, but it also shows how the Ravens think about judging talent. They're looking for players who have special skills that can't be taught. And when they looked at Shadur Sanders, they saw that kind of natural talent that sets good players apart from possible franchise quarterbacks. It's also very strange when this story came out, and it needs to be looked into more closely. The news came out just before the Ravens played the Browns, which makes for the most drama and interest. That wasn't an accident. At that exact moment, someone wanted this story to be public. But who? And why? Someone inside the Ravens organization, maybe a coach or front office worker who was unhappy with the team's aggressive pursuit of Sanders, could have leaked the information to make the leadership look bad or cause trouble within the organization. Front offices are not all the same. There are always different opinions on how to build a team, and big decisions like going after a quarterback in a huge trade can split an organization. Another option is that someone in the Browns organization leaked it to show their fans and players that Shadur Sanders is highly valued around the league and that other top teams want to get him. This would back up Cleveland's choice to keep Sanders and build around him, and it might also make him more valuable as a trade asset if they ever did decide to move him. But the most interesting idea is that Shadur Sanders' camp planned the leak themselves. Consider how this information going public could help your strategy. Now, everyone in the NFL knows that the Baltimore Ravens, one of the most respected teams in the league, thought so highly of Sanders that they offered him a deal worth more than $100 million. That changes how people see him as a prospect right away. He is no longer just another highly praised college quarterback. Championship-level teams are fighting over him as a player. This kind of information gives you power in many ways. It has an effect on contract talks. It has an effect on trade talks. It affects how other teams look at him. If you are Shadur Sanders or his lawyer, you definitely want this story to get out because it sets a starting point for everyone to think about. Even if the deal never happened and the details aren't completely correct, the rumor alone gives Sanders a sense of value that helps him a lot. You should also think about marketing. Shadur Sanders is more than just a football player. He is a brand. He is the son of one of the most famous American athletes of all time. He has a lot of fans on social media. He has business deals and endorsements that go well beyond the football field. In that world, how things look is everything. From a marketing and branding point of view, the idea that top NFL teams are fighting to get you is very useful. We should also talk about the elephant in the room, whether the Ravens should have offered even more to get this deal done. If they really thought Shadur Sanders could be Lamar Jackson's replacement and keep the team competitive for another decade or more, then maybe $100 million in assets wasn't enough. Maybe they should have gone even bigger, offered even more, and done whatever it took to protect what they thought was the future of their business. This is where the philosophy of the organization comes in. Some teams think they have to win the championship or lose. They are willing to risk their future for a chance at success right now. Some people are more careful and try to find a balance between being competitive now and being able to keep going in the future. The Ravens have always been in that second group. They take risks that are well thought out, not crazy ones. Instead of big blockbuster movies, they build through the draft, develop young players, and make smart trades. But maybe, just maybe, they should have changed their mind about that for Shadur Sanders, because franchise quarterbacks don't come along very often. You do whatever it takes to get that special player when you find him. You know he can be the face of your organization for the next 15 years. You don't let money, draft picks, or the way your company works get in the way. You go all in and deal with the fallout later. Of course, the other side of the argument is that giving up that much for a rookie quarterback who hasn't proven himself yet is crazy, especially since you already have a two-time MVP on your team who is playing at an elite level. Why would you give up your team's depth and future draft picks for a player who might not even work out? There have been a lot of highly rated quarterback prospects who failed spectacularly in the NFL. There is a Mitch Trubisky or Sam Darnold for every Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. The hit rate on quarterbacks, even those who are thought to be can't-miss prospects, is not even close to 100%. This is the problem that NFL coaches and general managers will always have. How much do you put into things that might work versus things that have already worked? How much do you give up on being competitive now for the chance to be competitive in the future? These are the questions that set great decision-makers apart from those who are just okay. And in this case, it seems that the Ravens thought the price was too high, the risk was too high, or maybe Shedur's refusal to accept a backup role made the whole thing impossible. But let's switch things around and look at it from Cleveland's point of view, since they are the other half of this equation. If the Browns really did get a trade offer this big, their front office had to think about it very carefully. Think about how it would feel to be in that war room when the phone rings and the general manager of Baltimore offers a package of several first-round picks, young defensive players, and maybe even veterans. That's a haul of assets that could change the whole franchise. That kind of return can speed up a rebuild by years. You could use those first-round picks to fill a lot of different needs. You could pick an edge rusher, a cornerback, an offensive lineman, or any other type of player to fill your biggest gaps. You could get younger and more athletic while also building through the draft. The young players from Baltimore would improve the roster right away without the team having to make long-term financial commitments. In many ways, it would be the perfect situation for a general manager. But this is where that logic goes wrong. In the NFL today, the quarterback position is the most important. Nothing. If you don't have a quarterback who can perform well in important situations, it doesn't matter if you have an elite defense, a strong offensive line, and skilled position players who play at Pro Bowl levels. This has happened over and over again. Great teams don't reach their full potential because they don't have that one special player at quarterback who can make everyone else better. If Cleveland's evaluation of Shadur Sanders shows that he could be that guy, and they really think he has franchise quarterback potential, then no trade offer is worth taking. You keep that player. You make things around him. You give him every resource he needs to succeed. Because if you're right about him and he becomes an elite quarterback, nothing else matters. But if you trade him for picks and players, even a lot of them, and he becomes a star somewhere else, your fans will never forgive you. In a few years, the people in the front office who made that choice will be looking for new jobs. This is why NFL executives have such a hard time deciding who to hire as a quarterback. There is a huge risk of being wrong either way. If you draft the wrong person, you've wasted years of time and money. If you trade away the right guy, your team will be haunted for a generation. There is no safe middle ground and no way to hedge your bets. You make your choice, place your bet, and deal with the results. Now, let's go back to that press conference one more time. I want to talk about the exact words John Harbaugh used to avoid answering the question. "We have a rule here that we don't talk about how decisions are made in the draft room," he said. Look how specific that statement is. He isn't saying that they don't talk about trade rumors. He isn't saying that they don't allow players from other teams to talk about their own players. He talks about how decisions are made in the draft room.